So, autumn is pretty much almost here. It's the very end of August, and things and the weather is really starting to change. I think this year our autumn is actually going to be on time. Last year it was mild all the way up to November here. I think this year I don't think it's going to be the same, but who knows? You never know what's going to happen with the weather here in the UK. But there's definitely a change going on our allotment. Now, squashes. I see a lot of people asking when's the best time to harvest them. And I see a lot of people panicking and picking their squashes or pumpkins far too early, thinking that they're going to get ruined or damaged in some form. Squashes and pumpkins are pretty resilient. I've never had a healthy squash or pumpkin plant damaged by slugs or things like that, or rotted. If it's sat in a pool of water, if it's sat on really, really wet ground, there's a chance that this could happen. But in my experience, generally, I don't have those kind of issues. So I want to leave my squashes and pumpkins on the plant for as long as I possibly can. There are a few telltale signs when your squash is ready to pick. One of them is the cracking of the actual stem. This is a sign that it's actually starting to cure. Another way is when all your leaves have basically died back. This is when the plant has completely given up. It can sense the change in the weather and the season, and it's going to start dying back. Another way that we use to see if it's fully cured is by testing it with our thumbnail. Now, we're not talking about pressing it super hard into the skin of the squash. It's just putting enough pressure to see if it goes through or just leaves a faint indentation. This is a really good way to see if your skin has hardened enough to be able to store long term. All these little things that you can test will mean that your squashes should store throughout the whole of the winter. Squashes are a fantastic crop to grow because they do store incredibly well, so long as you try and store them or cure them before you actually put them away. Now, if you don't want to cure your squashes on the vine and you want to protect those precious squashes or pumpkins, you can also take them indoors and put them on a nice sunny warm windowsill. This will allow them to continue to cure. Some of mine are actually ready, and I can tell this by the cracking of the actual stem. Now, this beauty is ready to go as well. Again, the stem is starting to crack, and I'm happy to take it because it will be eaten in the next week or so. So we're just going to take this one. And this is the other pumpkin. Luckily I was watching when that came towards me then. Now, this is the urticurry. This is one I've not grown before, but I've been told it's fantastic eating. Sounds nice and hollow too. Maybe next year I'll grow a pumpkin, which will be maybe a giant pumpkin. I don't know, but I'll give this a taste test over the next day or so. Now, this is a potato squash, and they're quite buried. It's lovely and white. So this is the mashed potato squash. These are only quite small. I don't know whether they get bigger. Again, this is the first year that we've actually grown these. And like I said earlier, I'm not overly convinced with the taste and texture, but Jamie loves these. So it will probably be something that we grow again next year. Off the 2 plants we were given from a fellow allotmenteer, we've had, I think there's probably about 10 or more of these squashes. And we're going to try and cure these to store these through the winter too. So this is the squash I'm going to harvest, and as you can see, the stalk has nicely cracked. Now, this is one that we'll probably eat over the next week or so. So and then doing the nail test, my nail is actually not going through the skin. So this can be ready. So I'm just going to first off cut this one stem, and you see that it's absolutely full of water. I'm just going to cut it there and cut it there for now. And we don't need that. Now, one of the other squashes was crown prince. Oh, now these are deceptively heavy for the size that they are. Again, these are great storers, and I'm really hoping that these are going to be tasty. I don't think they get much bigger than this, maybe they do, but we only had one per plant this year, and if they taste good, I'll probably grow these again next year. One of the others that we've grown is what you've seen before, is our pink jumbo squash. They can get much bigger, but they can grow up to 4 foot in length. Now we've got two different sizes. We've got more rounder ones and we've got some longer ones. And the longer ones look like this. Ooh! Okay, I very nearly didn't catch that. It caught me by surprise. Now this is jumbo pink banana squashes. Now this is big, but it's not as big as what these go. Now we actually picked an even bigger one yesterday.
Suntan.
This one will store, it's dried and cracked enough, and it really is a beauty, if not heavy. Are they the biggest squashes in the world? No. We're not growing for massive size, we're growing for taste and hopefully quantity. But it all depends on your squash plants, how many they're going to produce. The crown prince was literally only one a plant. The urchicurry was around about 1 to 2, maybe 3 at a stretch on some of the plants. The mashed potato squash, this one was very, very prolific, but it is smaller, so the plant can easily produce more. Normally with the butternut squashes, we get multiple per plant, and the same with the spaghetti squash. We normally get 2, maybe 4 per plant, depending on the growing season. So if it's something that you want to grow, think about it for next year. They do take up a lot of room, but they are happy to sprawl about. There is some varieties that are happy to grow upwards, so you can grow them on a frame. And that's exactly what we're going to do for next year. We're actually using scaffolding poles and some hoops to make an archway that we can actually harvest and walk through the framework to grow some of the smaller squashes. Probably the urchicurry or the mashed potato squash, or maybe even the crown prince. Obviously the pink banana is not going to work in that way because they're just far, far too big and they'll need a little bit of support. But we'll give that a think for next year. But at the moment, we're happy to carry on harvesting and eating the produce, and to start thinking about how we're going to grow and what we're going to grow for later on in the year. So let me know in the comments, guys, what's your favourite squash to grow? What's the tastiest one that you've ever grown? And let me know how well you've done this year. But that's it for me today. I have got so much to catch up on. I've got lots of weeding and lots of harvesting to do, and I'm in full-blown plan mode for what's going on for next year. So take care, and I'll see you in the next vid.